What's happening all, as you'll see in the background, what's pretty standard anymore is another hotel room. So it is Tuesday, the 1st of March, going into another month. And well, the mortgage bonds actually has seen a little bit of lift off of where it's found that really ugly bottom. And I'll get into that here in a minute and show you where that is. But what's making these moves, from what I can tell, right? All the different stuff that I'm reading, these mortgage bonds are getting that increase due to the sanctions on Russia, what's happening all over the globe. It's amazing how many countries are uniting to make that big dent here. I mean, it really kind of blows me away here to the extent that even Pornhub cut off Russia, right? That's how many people are upset about what's happening here. So the globe has taken, when you think about the connectivity that we have now, the ability to interact as far as the social media is concerned, we have better access to what's happening over there than I think anytime in history. And there's no sugarcoating what's going on. It can easily be seen real time right there in front of you, and the experience firsthand from somebody else. And so because of that, I think that my personal thought is that might be contributing to exactly why there's so much response. And one of the biggest responses that we have seen here is many Russian banks have been removed from the global SWIFT financial payments process, right? And that what that stands for is Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. So that means those banks can't interact with each other. They can't send money back and forth. That system is down to them. Now, there's a few that still have that. Now, the few that do have that has to do with those who are dealing a lot with oil revenues, right? Especially oil exports. Now, the thing that has to do with the reason for oil, because if you look back in history of the US dollar becoming the reserve currency, everything that has to do with oil, from what I understand, is paid in US dollars. So they got to keep the dollar strong. So when you think about the Fed, the Federal Reserve is, and I was sitting in a meeting yesterday, I'm up here in Salt Lake, and the hedge fund manager of a nearly $30 billion fund was talking about his understanding of how they created this reserve currency. In reality, the Federal Reserve has the most desirable product on the planet, which is the U.S. dollar. That everybody has to use it in some form or another. Every deal that has ever been made with all these other countries, and some of the crazy things that happen, it's like, why would we do something like that? It's so the agreement can be put in place and force people to use the U.S. dollar. So when you think about that, and they have a situation like what we've got right now in Russia, where Russia is basically their ruble is being really impacted heavily right now. So all their debts that they have, especially when it comes to oil, has to be paid back with the U.S. dollar. But the ruble loses value, right? The currency they have loses value compared to what they have to pay everything back with. That means it increases, right? Well, their debt increases basically. So what they're paying it back with, if it loses, let's say, 20% in value, right? Well, the debt went up actually a little bit more than 20%, because it doesn't always, I don't have the exact calculation, but it doesn't correlate specifically because of the increase, where that decrease actually creates a little bit wider gap. So now their debt just increased on them, right? So, they got to be really careful how they interact with certain things, because it could cause a lot more stress to their economy. So they've got to be very cautious how they move forward. That's why apparently some of these sanctions can work and have an effect, especially have an entire globe that's uniting to saying, no, you can't do this, right? So that, because of this disruption, it does have an impact on equity markets, but has helped significantly when you're talking about the bond markets, because these bond markets, as you start seeing people running or taking their capital and push it someplace that's going to be less volatile, like the stocks, right? Stocks can be extremely volatile. They can move all over in these particular environments. Bonds, typically stable. You put your money in there, you know exactly what your return on investment is going to be. So here's what we've got. We're going to go ahead and pull up and show you what is happening in the charts. Now, remember, we're talking about the St. Louis Fed president coming out and saying he wanted to raise rates 100 basis points the next time they meet. Well, that caused the entire market to impact significantly, right? A lot of sell-off. We've been playing way down here in this ugliness, but then we have this stuff going on overseas. Now, I hate to be that takes something like war, right, to impact us to the positive, but this is what we're seeing going on here. Now look at where we're at now. We've gained to add this extreme drop, but when we think about it, I don't know if we're done dropping, right? Take a look here. We get this line going here. We're landing right on that right now. interestingly enough. You start looking at my line's not exactly perfect here, my trend line, but I'm gonna go ahead and highlight it a little bit more. Maybe make it red so you guys can see this. But look at that. I mean, when you start looking at where things are hitting, now this is not 100%, right? I'm not saying this is exactly accurate. I haven't had time to really analyze it, but we're still in that downward trend. Now, unless we break this and keep moving up and have some sort of decisive reason for it to increase, we may just be out of this spot right here that's really caused a lot of volatility in the interest rates that might put us in a little bit more of a stable position and see a little bit come back from what we've had. Hard to say, but we still have the Fed out there is going to be talking about raising rates. They may stop on the rate raise. I don't know what the plan is going to be here. So ultimately, I at least want to give you a little bit of data where we're at. I know the lighting's kind of screwing up here, but nobody wants to look at me anyway. Think about it. It's all about the data. So that's what I see right now. I don't have anything new to anything else to report other than we at least got out of that massive free fall and stabilized a bit. Now we're coming back to where what appears to be that downward trend. Hopefully there's something to reverse it. If not, we'll hopefully at least go sideways, right? Kind of quell this massive decline and have some stability. But we'll just report back on Tuesday if anything changes. And so far, it seems like we're going to be running in this particular realm for a little while, especially with all the stuff that's going on overseas. Thanks, guys, and we will talk to you on Friday.